Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sanderlanche podcast. I am Data, and with me this week is...
Joe.
And Dak.
That's it. Joe and Dak. I gotta stop saying that's it. It seems very disappointing. But
anyway. Let's be clear, it's very disappointing.
This week we read Elantris, chapters 14 and 15, wherein first is Sarene's chapter, and she has a sewing circle going on, or a what is it? It's not sewing, it's needlepoint. Yeah, a whole needlepoint club thing happening, and then she goes to her first party since arriving at Erelon, and it's a thing. And then we get Hrathen's chapter, and he basically has a big internal monologue, and then he meets up with Telri, and then he meets with the Elantrian city guard. So some suspicious activity going on from Hrathen, but basically everything he does is suspicious activity at this point, since he's kind of our nemesis. So I guess hang on to something, everybody. The Sanderlanche is about to begin.
Feed the fire, set me free in this city of dreams. Push my mind into overload. Hack the wire, smash the gene in this city of dreams. We'll be immortal in the code. Mind into overload.
So yeah, I feel like more happened, and once again Sarene had the long chapter, but I feel like at least more happened than the last time Sarene had the long chapter. So what did you guys think of these two chapters?
Yeah, Sarene's chapter was cool. I like when she plays the idiot. So and there was a lot of different scenes in the chapter which I liked. She starts in the little knitting circle or whatever you want to call it, and then she's like, "Oh, I'll teach you guys how to fence." And all the women seem pretty excited about that, so that was cool. And then Ash, she hangs out with Ash a little bit in her room, talking to him, and then she goes to this ball, and so there was a lot of good moments in the chapters for her there. I also found it interesting that Ash went into Elantris, and it's like, oh man, if only he could have come across Hrathen, but obviously that didn't happen. So. And then Hrathen's chapter, I like that we're right, that we seem to be right about Hrathen. He seems like an all right dude. He's just a zealot. He's not he's not like kill, murder, death. He's actually seems like a pretty decent guy on the inside. It's just, he's very guided by a higher power that he 100% is behind. So that may not be the best for the people that we're rooting for, but it's he's a more interesting character than just some random villain guy, so it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Hrathen's got some depth to him, some ins and outs. It's nice, and it does. What you were saying about Ash going into the city, I was like, yeah, I guess it's kind of a big. It's not a giant city, but I guess it's big enough that he's not just running into Rauden's crew yet. So.
Yeah, well, Maud, this case got a lot of ins, a lot of outs.
a lot of strings.
For the old duder's head.
Oh my gosh, I saw a baby book yesterday advertised that was like, are you a dude? And it's Big Lebowski characters, but in little baby drawing style. And I was like,
what?
Man, maybe I should get this for my child.
That seems like one of those cool. This is a really cool thing. This is not really child appropriate, but hey.
Well, it's like the Samuel L. Jackson Go the Fuck to Sleep. It's along that same vein, I think.
Yeah, true. I'm going to commit heresy on this one. I prefer the Werner Herzog version of that book, because that man's terrifying. These chapters are good. I liked Sarene in the knitting circle. I'm just like, ooh, they're going to learn fencing. That's actually kind of cool and a bit of a deviation of where I thought this would go. It's not just all going to be the gossip and nattering of the court. It's they're actually going to be sword fighting, which means that they're going to get some action scenes later in the book. I kind of want to see that. That's going to be great. The party scene was pretty cool, and then I like the conversation between Hrathen and Telri. I think one thing that's sort of this is probably going to be the pettiest thing I've ever said, but when I'm sort of starting to get a bit. All right, we get that the chapters are all happening concurrently or close to, but considering how set apart Rowden is, I feel like they're leaning very heavily on the the other characters are looking over right about when he's wandering around. Because like we've already had them. It's like, oh, they happened to be on the roof and they looked over and they saw Hrathen. Oh, they were on the wall and they saw Hrathen on the roof.
Yeah.
And now Hrathen's come down and just happened to be at the gate at the same time Hrathen was going back in. I'm like, okay, look, there's coincidence and like getting your characters together, but I feel like you're pushing it a bit heavily at the moment. I don't know.
Interesting. I hadn't really thought about that. Honestly, it's such a small point in the chapter that like that's just what draws his attention is seeing the doors close. It hadn't even really occurred to me to be like, oh yeah, obviously that's when Hrathen's going in. I mean, I knew that was the case, but it didn't stick out to me that much, I guess. So
yeah,
that's an
for some
interesting
reason,
point.
it just jumped at me a bit, and it's like, all right, we get it. Like they're happening at the same time, and they're gonna cross paths a bit. I just feel like maybe it was just because it was so soon after the last one.
Yeah, I kind of have just accepted that for what it is. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
well, I know that's what's happening, so I'm not really saying, or not really, what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not really bothered by it. It's like, I know, like, these
That's
are happening concurrently, and that's, like, for the reader to fully appreciate that, you have to do that kind of stuff, because otherwise it's like, we don't know exactly when this is, except we know that it was after the party sometime. Like, even though we read the Hrathen chapter last week, I had actually forgotten that the ball was supposed to be on the same night until Sarene got back, and they were like, yeah, somebody broke into the palace. Like, I completely forgot, like, oh yeah, they're supposed to be happening like at the same time. So that would have been going on today. So I actually kind of like that it's given me a frame of reference for when all these events are happening.
Yeah. Well, I guess like Sarene getting back to the palace and they realize, oh shit, like someone broke in. Like that didn't jar me as much because that's just like they came across the aftermath and logically it makes sense. Like, oh, that's why they didn't encounter Iadon or really anyone else at the palace because like all the important people were at this ball. That makes sense. I think it was more just like Hrathen happened to be in almost the exact spot as Hrathen that got me a bit more, as opposed to just being where he was.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's like, wow, what a coincidence. It's the same.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Well,
again, this seems like a really petty thing for me to gripe about, so I don't want to harp on it too much. But it's just something that just sort of stuck out at me a bit while I was reading, I guess.
Yeah. Oh, and they do make a point to say that he's been going to Elantris like seemingly every night, like just looking at it. So
True.
It's, if you think about it that way, he's going there every night. It was bound to happen.
That's definitely true. Yeah.
While he was there. So.
Well, and at the same time, I feel like if it was like major plot points relying on these coincidences, I would be a lot more like, okay, really? I mean, we're just going to rely on, they happen to be in the same place at the same time to get like this major plot point across. But it doesn't come across me that way. It's just like, oh, and by the way, here's a thing that you noticed that points out to you kind of when this is happening. So maybe that's why it doesn't bother me.
That's also a good point.
But no, I get what you're saying. This isn't like the second or third time that's been like, oh, so just coincidentally in the same spot. I mean, honestly, in that same chapter, it's a huge coincidence that Sarene comes up just as Hrathen is making his big speech on top of the wall. So
yeah, I guess it's just more palatable when Sarene and Hrathen cross paths with each other because they're in the same city and they're not like isolated from each other. Whereas Hrathen is very much harder. But I mean, they're the three main characters. They're gonna have to cross over at some point. So.
One would hope, yeah. We're not gonna get to the end of the book and they never really do anything with each other. That'd be hilarious. It's like the last chapter, Hrathen like meets Sarene. It's like, oh, so you're Sarene. Good to meet you.
Not even. It's like the last chapter ends on Sarene meeting Galadon. Galadon's like, hey, there's someone I think you should meet, and then that's it. That's
that could totally be. Yeah, okay, that's new headcanon for how this book is gonna end.
Yeah. And then he's like, oh yeah, I was supposed to marry you. Bummer that.
Bummer that. How do we think that Hrathen like really feels bad about missing out on that? He hasn't mentioned it much.
Well, I think
he's had bigger things to concern himself with.
Yes, and I think that's kind of been his thing. It's like he's not giving a lot of himself away or how he feels. But yes, I agree with Dak. He's probably so mixed up in Elantris things now. It's like he probably hasn't had time to think about her that much.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I guess let's get into these chapters. We start out, as we said, with Sarene in the needlepoint group. And just like she's bad at painting, she's real bad at needlepoint. And she's not happy about it. So art is just not her thing, is what we're learning here. Which, I get it, Sarene. Art is not my thing either. I cannot draw for shit. So, But unlike her, I gave up a long time ago and accepted that I'm not gonna suddenly get good at drawing.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm very envious of, is anybody who's very good at drawing.
Yeah, right. So she's trying to stitch this pattern, but she also drew the pattern, so it looks terrible. And also, when she's stitching, she can't follow lines, so that just makes it worse. And it's supposed to be a bird, but it looks like a squashed tomato, she says. And Queen Eshin is like, oh, very nice, dear. And Deora, who, that's Keen's wife, I believe, is like, don't worry. And she tries to give her encouragement. It's like, hey, Domi always regards diligence. Just continue to practice and you will improve. And Serene's sitting here thinking, like, this woman is like so beautiful and nice and is exactly the kind of person that I would hate back home, but I can't hate her because she's also just amazing. Lips bright red, eyes mysterious. I don't know that we've gotten much of a description of Keen's wife before this. Like, we met her, but it really gets into here, like what she looks like and how she acts and stuff.
Also, like, she's your aunt. You know, you shouldn't hate your aunt just because you don't. I mean, I don't know.
It's like she's known for her remarkable beauty, which I guess Serene's not necessarily known for that, so she's kind of bitter. It's like, I really hate, like, the pretty girls at court, but also Deora is the kindest, most intelligent person at the court, so I can't dislike her. And it moves over to Eshin, who seems to be frightened of silence, which we already kind of knew about her. And so this is the Queen's embroidery group, which Sarene says that she kind of ignored at first, but then she realized that, like, the gossip about the court that goes on here is just as valuable as, like, what she can learn from actually going to the main court with the king. For instance, we find out that Lord Warren, son of the Baron of Kai Plantation, has had quite a religious experience.
Which, that's Hrathen related, surely.
It does kind of seem that. And it gets discussed later at the party, so we can touch on it more then. But yeah, it seems kind of that way.
Yeah.
And I like how the Queen starts out with this interesting piece of news and immediately transitions into, sweaters are coming back next year. And so I'm going to make Iadon wear one so the king has to look fashionable.
Sweaters are back, girls.
Sweater vests.
But Deora brings us back around to it. It's like, yeah, it seems so weird that after being a devout Korathi for so long, he would suddenly convert. And the other women are like, yeah, it's not like there's really any difference between the two churches unless you listen to the priests. What do they know? They act like your soul depends on whether you call God Domi or Jadeth. And Sarene tries to be like, well, actually, they're kind of pretty different churches. And the girl's like, yeah, if you're a priest, maybe, but that doesn't make any difference to us, right? And like Sarene kind of drops, it's like, oh, of course. I mean, we are all only women, right? To try to kind of get a rise out of them. And then Eshin asks, what do women do to pass the time in Fjorden? And apparently Serene's been waiting for the opportunity to kind of try to nudge these women into being more active. So she's starting out with like, well, we do lots of stuff. But I mean, for instance, we go to the court and the king's court is open to everyone. And we actually take an interest in what's going on in our country. But one of the other women jumps in, the overweight one, which has to be pointed out every time she's mentioned, apparently. So do you fight each other with swords? So apparently the rumors in Erelon are that to entertain the men, the women murder each other with swords in some sort of gladiatorial battles, which is funny because we were just talking about that being part of her trial.
Yeah.
And apparently they don't do that here.
Yeah. I also like how the other women brush off. She's like, we actually take an interest in the running of our country. And then they're like, wait, but you guys fight with swords. That's what I heard, right?
So, yes, the women fight with swords for the entertainment of the men under King Zapp Brannigan.
Yeah, that is what would happen.
I find this to be a very seductive dueling technique.
The uniforms for the gladiators, they're made of real velour.
Oh my gosh. It's sad that I could absolutely see this being an episode of Futurama where he becomes king and makes women fight.
But the spirit is willing, but the flesh is spongy and bruised.
He says, like, whichever one wins, like, gets to sleep with him, and they all keep trying to lose.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh ho! Winner of the tournament is a delightful Leela.
Yeah, because Leela can't back down from a challenge. So even though she doesn't want to have sex with Zapp Brannigan, she wins.
She has to win.
And then she has to win, exactly. Well, we meet again, Leela. You just can't get enough of this sweet, sweet candy.
Bam.
Bam.
Oh my gosh. No, they're like, so yeah, we heard that you guys kill each other for the sport of the men. And it says Serene's eyebrow twitched. We call it fencing, Lady Iadon, and we do it for our own amusement, not that of the men, and we definitely do not kill each other. The swords have little knobs at the end, and we wear thick clothing, so no one really gets hurt. But they kind of skim over that. They're like, wait, so you really do use swords? Oh my gosh. He's like, yeah, I mean, fencing was like my favorite sport. And says the women's eyes shone with an appalling level of bloodlust. And so she's thinking like she'd been hoping to like nudge them into being more politically interested, but she's going to take what she can get at this point. So she's like, I could teach you guys if you want. Apparently, Iadon isn't a big fan of fighting and swords. He feels that it's beneath noblemen, so none of the noblemen in his court even carry weapons. He calls fighting peasants' work. He studied them rather a lot. He's a fine leader, you know, and a fine leader has to know a lot about a lot of things.
Oh, yeah. Great leader is Iadon.
Oh my gosh,
Really just adds to the whole, wow, how did Arelon not get conquered?
Yeah, seriously.
It really just boils down to, yeah, they had the mountains defense, and other than that, no one could really be bothered until now.
I think that's it, exactly.
Yeah, the mountain defense, and then people are like, don't want to mess with like being so close to Elantris. So it's just like, do we really want to do that? Just let him have his little kingdom.
Well, and until recently, like Duladel was also like in between them and everybody else. Duladel's fallen within the last year or something, I think. So yeah, she says, so none of the men can fight, and they're like, well, you know, except for Lord Eondel and Lord Fjorden. And apparently the ladies are big fans of Fjorden.
Oh yeah.
And Prince Hrathen knew how to fight. I think that's the first time we're learning about this. It's like, I think he had Eondel teach him just to spite his father. He was always doing things like that. And so Serene's like, well, I mean, you know, if Iadon says that it's beneath him, then how can he complain about us doing it? We are only women after all, right? And everyone smiles mischievously. And then we cut to Sarene being like, hey, Ash, where'd I put my sword? He's like, your sword? Never mind, I'll find it later. So Aish has been wandering around trying to find information. We found out in that last chapter, she said she was going to send him to the dungeons, which he mentions here. He's like, yeah, I didn't find any princes locked away in any corners of the dungeon. Sorry. But also people in K don't want to speak to Seance, really. They associate us with Elantris. And the Seance in Elantris are all crazy. So, and all the Elantrians that I talked to just tried to beg me for food. Like I could possibly carry it to them. I got no hands. Also, so he's like, basically the only people with decent information that would actually talk were the guards, the Elantrian guards, or the guards of Elantris, whatever they're called. And Serene's like, oh yeah, they're supposed to be the most elite fighting group in Arelon. And he's like, yeah, and they will tell you that repeatedly.
Look at us, we're the most elite people in Arelon as far as fighting goes. You know, boasting. That's a sure sign of truth right there.
They're the best fighters in Arelon. You're the only fighters in Arelon.
Yeah. It's not hard to be at the top when you're the only ones, baby.
And who do you fight? People with the plague.
Yeah.
I sent wave after wave of my own men at them.
Okay, yeah, there's new headcanon. Zapp Brannigan is in charge of the Elantrian City Guard.
Yeah.
God.
So, but even Aish even is like, yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure they don't seem to actually know much about battle. They're good at cards, though, and drinking, and they keep their uniforms well pressed. So there's that. And so, according to them, the people in Elantris, the Elantrians, when they get taken by the Fjord, they basically turn into animals. They're not even human anymore. And he's like, and that seems to be the case for the Elantrian Seance I spoke to, so maybe that's true. He's like, and he says most of the ones Elantrians I ran into were just crying or mumbling in corners. So basically, he saw the Hoed, or however it's said, laying in the streets, mumbling to themselves because the pain has gotten too much. And so Serene's like, huh, so I guess the Shroud is really mental as well as physical. It just completely messes them up. And when we get back to the thing, she's like, how are they fed? And she's like, they're not, as far as I can tell. She's like, but how could they possibly survive? I don't know. But my favorite bit is when Aish says, they are a group of miserable, cursed individuals that your god appears to have forgotten. And the rest of the country is trying very hard to follow his example.
Yeah, that's a real, like, almost, I want to say almost like criticism. It's like, everybody's forgotten them. Your god, your people, nobody cares.
Well, I find it interesting because it's the first indicator we have that whatever the Seons believe, it's not in this same god that, it's not in Domi or whatever. Because he very clearly says your god.
Well, they were created by Elantrians, so for all intents and purposes, the Elantrians are their creators, their gods. So.
Oh, that's a good point.
I guess that makes sense, yeah.
So all his gods are gone. That's that's unfortunate.
That's a bummer. Well, I guess technically his gods are the current Elantrians, but that ain't working so good.
No, yeah, that's not. That's not what you want in a god.
Yeah. Oh, mid show prediction. The Elantrians learn how to use their magic, and then they somehow turn the Seons into like sweet ass spirit weapons. That'd be pretty cool.
Like just swords appear, like a Seon turns into a magic sword.
Yeah, exactly.
Ace is just like, this isn't even my final form, and becomes a Gatling gun.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like it's not
bazooka.
even like it's not. Yeah, exactly. It's not even weapons from this age. It's like futuristic weapons, like a ray gun.
I would be on board for that. And then we get to Sarene's dress choice, which she picks something from the back of her closet, something she brought along with her, and not one of the things Eshin gave her. And it is it's a gold dress, a shiny gold dress with a black cape. And Aisha's like, but it's not black. You're supposed to be in mourning. So, well, the cape's black. So, he's like, yeah, I don't think that makes it like a widow's dress. And she's like, close enough. I'm sick and tired of these black dresses. Also, the front is very low cut, apparently. And she's like, what? I've seen women wearing that. And he's like, yeah, but they're single women. All the single ladies. And
yeah. Women don't walk around in their underpants. Wait, no, that's the other series.
Oh, Vin. It's not appropriate garb for a young lady. But yeah, so she's like, I'm done with these black dresses. She ends the section by being like, find someone to take all these away. I'm not wearing them anymore. And she also wants Aish to be on the lookout for information about Keen, because she's still wondering about this whole thing where he said he was disinherited. And she's like, maybe there's rumors here in Erelon that we can find out about. I mean, he's an important dude, so people may be talking about him. So we get to Duke Telri's mansion. He's holding the party tonight. And Sarene is going with Fjorden. And it's they notice these rocks that are burning with light when they get there, lining the path. Apparently very expensive. Special rocks imported from the south. And Fjoden's like, this is extravagant even for this guy known for extravagance. But unlike what she was hearing from other people, like Lucal, I guess, earlier, Fjoden's like, look, he's more clever than most people give him credit for. He's frivolous with money, but there's usually something behind it. Like, he's doing it for a reason. The fact that I can't figure out what the reason he is here has me concerned, is basically the message that we get from Fjorden. But also, he's very happy that Sarene agreed to come with him, because apparently the ladies are all about Fjorden, which we kind of found out in that earlier section. And he's like, oh yeah, usually I have to beat them off with a stick. And the way he says it makes it sound literal.
Yeah. It's like, wine, I'm so hot, I'm so desirable, all the ladies want me, it's the worst.
And she's like, listening to you talk, you'd think you never intended to get married. And I love his response. He's like, no, I mean, I'm very interested in the concept of marriage, or at least the theory behind the concept. But finding a woman in this court whose twittering foolishness doesn't cause my stomach to turn, that's another thing entirely. Which, given the ones that we've met so far, I kind of get his point, yeah. Of course, the ones we've met so far were already also married to other people, so I don't know.
And Deora's daughter's, I assumed, is not married.
Wait, does she have a daughter? That's
not
that
Deora.
The other daughter. The one that's from the knitting party. I remember who you're talking about now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe an Ahan's daughter or something.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Because I know his wife was there. Yeah, so maybe she was the one at the thing who was like, when Fjoden's mentioned, she's like, oh, that Fjoden, so hot. But Sarene's impressed by Fjorden because he remembers everyone's name, and there's no one there that seems to dislike him, which is very impressive. And she thinks that his popularity comes from his refreshing honesty. Because he's foreign, he can get away with saying things that other people can't, and he's just always polite, but always completely honest. And then we go into the special king part, the sub party. The king gets his own special room within every party where he gets to hang out, and only important people can come and hang out at the king's party. We find out that Iadon and Telri are in the same business. They both have merchant fleets that trade in the Sea of Fjorden, so they're rivals in business. And Serene's like, why does the king come to these things? My father never goes to parties like this. And Shuden's like, well, yeah, that's because your father's a grown up. Iadon is still like impressed by his own power and likes to, drink in the people being like, oh my gosh, look, it's the king. He's so great. Let's fawn all over him. I like whoever throws the ball has to have a nice room set aside for the king's second party, a second band just for the king's party. No one below a duke or a very well placed count is even allowed in the room. And she's like, but you're a baron. That's below those. And he's like, yeah, I'm a special case. We basically forced our way into being noble, so I can get away with some stuff. But we also find out that our friend Hrathen is here. Not only here at the party, but he's in the king's special sub-party also, which Sarene does not like. And Shuden's like, oh yeah, basically the day that he got to town, he just showed up to the first party and with such an air of self-importance that no one since has neglected to invite him. And he just walked into the king's private party that first night and started talking to one of the dukes, barely even nodded to the king. So and nobody said anything. Nobody kicked him out or anything. So he's just, apparently he considers the title of Gjorn equal to anything in this room. And she's like, oh yeah, kings bow to Gjorns in the east. They practically grovel when Viking Pope comes to visit. And then Shuden, whose family is from Jindo, we get that this religion started in Jindo, or with an old Jindo man named Keseg, who founded Shu Keseg, and he had his two students, Korath and Dareth, who went to preach to other lands and started Shu Korath and Shu Dareth. So Shuden is a follower of Shu Keseg, the original, it seems like, because that's what they had in Jindo before the Fjordals took over. And apparently Keseg taught unity. People of Shu Keseg think that is the unity of the mind. The priests of Shu Korath say that is the unity of love, and Shu Dareth says it is the unity of obedience.
And these pillars, I don't know, very mystical sounding, possibly could be shard related, maybe? I don't know.
Just like a different shard for each one, or maybe
No.
is the original one the unity of the mind? Like, does that speak to some sort of shard that you can think of?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the unity of the mind was or mind in general, or maybe those followers were like the ones, because in Secret History they're in like that mind plane or whatever. So maybe they taught those people like how to enter that plane. I don't know. Said, something's going on with their ancient religions, obviously. So it also gives me these weird like Kingdom Hearts vibes. It's like these two students of this one master, they split off and then they form their own like thing. One goes darkness, one goes light. It's like,
oh yeah.
So it's definitely interesting. But yeah, I mean, I feel like these religions have to be based somewhere, and I feel like that's kind of important to maybe understanding what's happening in this world. So, or maybe not. Who knows? But I feel like it's information being given for a purpose, for sure.
I feel like in Secret History, if we're right and the people in the fortress were Elantrians, which I think we were pretty confident they are, they did seem to be really harping on about the shard devotion, and I guess those three pillars could all be forms of devotion, or like the first one could be, and then the other two were just sort of basically corruptions of the teachings. I think we need to know more, but I feel like that's probably how it's going to go down. So I don't know, we'll see.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point, Dak. I mean, love is a type of devotion. Obedience is a type of devotion.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how mind would fit into that, but maybe like you're thinking about the thing, that's devoting your mind to it, your thoughts.
Yeah.
See, now you just got me thinking. I'm like, devotion is such like a kind of vague concept that you can, anywhere you look, you could see something. You're like, that could be devotion.
Right.
Yeah. When you're saying that, the first thing I thought was like, the Seons are like really devoted, aren't they? But really, it's just like anything you bring up, you're like, yeah, that's devoted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we could say that any behavior, if it's fervent enough, could be considered devotion. Like Sarene is devoted to her womanhood and like being a strong woman. She's devoted to making a difference. Hrathen's devoted to his religion. Raden's devoted to making like life better. So I guess that's a good point. It's like you could really say if somebody's fervent about something, they could be devoted.
Yeah.
But still, I like that idea because when you think of like devotion overarching, I think love and obedience are two things that for sure fall like they're one of the first things that might come to mind. So
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense. Sarene's basically like, yeah, Shu Dureth, they suck. And Shuden's like, well, I didn't say that. I mean, the soul of Shu Keseg is acceptance. There's room for all teachings. The Durethi think they're right, or they're doing what is right, rather. But this one is dangerous. So Shuden went to one of his sermons and could immediately apparently spot what we found out in that last Hrathen chapter. It's like, this guy is not speaking from the heart. He preaches from the mind, and he's just looking for numbers. He doesn't care how faithful the followers are as long as they're signing up to drink the Kool-Aid, basically. And then we also get a look at Warren, who came up in the discussion earlier. Shouldn't even be in this room. He's not important enough, but apparently he's using his association with the Gjorn as an invitation. He was famously pious as a follower of Shu Korath, but claims to have had a vision of Jadeth commanding him to convert. And Shuden says, I've always suspected that his piety was an exhibition. His extreme devotion gained him notoriety. He's just an opportunist. So yeah, this guy definitely has something going on with Hrathen, causing this sudden, mysterious vision and conversion to Shu Dereth. And Sarene's just like, damn, I waited too long to start coming to these balls. He's got like a week's advantage on me. And then Royal shows up. And really, I love Royal more than ever in this chapter. He's amazing.
Yep. Lecherous old man, always a good character.
Yep, exactly. He's Master Roshi here. And they start talking about like how helpful it is to have Sarene here to keep the girls off of Shuden. And Royal's like, man, I was hoping you wouldn't realize, because maybe I could keep some of the ladies off as well. It's a tough life. And Sarene's like, a little bit disbelieving that this old and not particularly attractive dude is just like reeling in ladies all over the place. And she says, you women want to marry you? And then she remembered her manners and added my lord, which I don't think makes that more polite. I'm just saying.
No, definitely not. It's like people like you. I mean, my lord. It's like, yeah, that was still mean. Thanks.
Women want to marry the dude who looks like a burnt sandal? Your Eminence.
Yeah. People want to marry a walking corpse, sir.
But he's not offended. He laughs at it. He's like, hey, don't worry. I get it. I'm old. I'm not much to look at. My wife's been dead 20 years and I don't have a son, though. So all the unmarried girls seem to realize that my money's got to go somewhere when I die. So they're like, hey, if I can get this guy, I'll just have to indulge him for a few years and then bury him and find a lusty young lover to help spend the money.
He's very good-natured about all this. He's like, well, like if they're gonna be gold diggers, I'm gonna make them dig.
Yeah, that's exactly what he. Oh my god.
They think I'm too old to make them do their wifely duties. They are wrong.
If I were to let them steal my fortune, I'd at least make them work for it.
Yeah.
Great.
I think this is the point in the show. We're making jokes about this character, but this is the point in the show where we need Jamie to tell us like if this is okay.
I can fairly confidently say, like, she'll say yeah, because she knows this is all tongue in cheek.
Sure.
Okay, so we cut back. Sarene's just like, I knew you were a dirty old man. He's like, yeah, self-professedly so.
I admit it, so that makes it all okay.
Well, also, this is all like just, it's not only tongue-in-cheek on our part, it's tongue-in-cheek on his part, I think.
Yeah,
because
yeah.
It's like none of this is stuff that's actually going to happen. Or maybe it will. Maybe we're in, like, next chapter, he's going to be like, so I found a girl who wants to marry me. But Royal says, I hear that our dear Lord Telry's sudden good fortune isn't a matter of pure luck, so something has happened. And Shuden's like, but Telry hasn't declared allegiance to Shu Dereth. And Royal's like, well, not openly. But my sources say there's something going on here. There's rarely been a party like this in K, and the Duke is throwing it for no obvious reason. One begins to wonder just what he's advertising and why he wants us to know how wealthy he is. And that's when Eshin calls Sarene over, and Sarene starts to have second thoughts about maybe I shouldn't have stopped wearing black and worn this low-cut dress if I knew I was going to be hanging out with the king, and he looks kind of angry about it. But she's like, oh, hey, I was just explaining to my husband that idea that we had, the one about exercising. And fucking Iadon is not helping himself at all here. He's just like, what's this nonsense? Women playing with swords? And she's like, well, you wouldn't want us to get fat, would you? No, of course not. You could just eat less.
Just put the fork down.
And it's funny because Sarene is apparently like a really tall, thin woman. So coming from her, this discussion is just even funnier. But it's like, dude, do you have to be an asshole at every moment? But Sarene just keeps playing dumb, and he's like, there's got to be a better exercise. And she's like, but I've done this ever since I was a child. You certainly couldn't have anything against a foolish womanly pastime. Which, calling it foolish may have been taken a bit too far, because then he eyes her a little bit like, wait a second. Before, once again, getting frustrated, and it's like, whatever, do what you want. I don't want you spoiling my evening. And then a messenger shows up and starts whispering something in Iadon's ear, and the king is very unhappy. And then the man moves to whisper again, and Iadon pushes him back. He's like, just say it. I can't stand all the whispering. There's a really weird...
Very Rajesh Howard moment here. It's just like, okay, stop whispering in my ear.
Yeah, no, you're right. That is very reminiscent. And the guy's like, it happened just this week, your majesty. And so Serene's like, oh, here, I'm going to hear some juicy goss. And then Hrathen, just from off in the corner, not even seeming to be speaking in this direction, but somehow making his words travel exactly where he needs them to go, is like, I would have thought the king wouldn't discuss such important matters where the dull-minded can hear. Such people tend to be so confused by events. And the king notices Sarene standing there, and he's like, ugh, and has to like grab the guy and kind of take him over into a corner to finish this discussion. And Serene's all pissed off, like, he did that on purpose. We're like, yeah, no shit, he did that on purpose, Sarene. What kind of statement is that?
It's like when you play dumb, sometimes people, think you're dumb.
And Royal's like, man, this guy's good. It's a masterful stroke when you can turn someone's guise to your advantage. And Fjoden's just over here like, I mean, I've always found that you should just be honest. Like, lying all the time, it just causes issues. And Royal's like, yeah, true. Boring, but true. And Serene's like, yeah, okay, so playing dumb is annoying, but I gotta stick with it with the king. Like, what can I do at this point? And Duke Tellery comes over to meet Sarene. And they, I guess, have a discussion, like the group of them. He kind of ignores her after their first introduction. But we don't actually hear much of the discussion. It's just like, yeah, they have a talk. And then he leaves. He seems completely uninterested in Sarene. And then she's like, okay, Fjoden, come on, we're going to mingle. Hrathen's got a week's lead, but I'm not going to let him stay ahead of me. And then it cuts to Fjoden had wanted to leave hours ago, but Sarene had forced him to stay and talk to everyone. I feel so bad for him.
Please stop.
And it's funny because he's like the young nobleman in the group, too. He's like the young, handsome, hip guy. And he's just like, can I please leave?
I'm so tired. This is the worst day of my life. I'm glad I'm not taking you to the next one is all I'm saying.
And he does. He's like, I'm glad Ahan is next in line. Your company was delightful, but I just can't keep up with you.
Yeah.
And that's when she heads back into the palace, and the king's guards are scrambling around yelling. And she's like, what's going on? Like, someone broke into the palace, snuck right through the king's bedchambers. So they did figure out where they came from and where they went, I guess. I don't know how necessarily, but also I guess the king left a while ago, because we know the king was asleep at the time that they snuck through his chamber. So she must have been at the party well after Iadon left. And that's the end of her chapter. They're like basically shuffle her off to her room so she can be safe. And then we move to Hrathen's chapter. And there's one interesting little bit from the annotations that one of the rewritten things about the book was that there were sections and chapters where like Hrathen. So basically the first half of this chapter is Hrathen walking around thinking, more or less. And originally that was like the whole chapter was him doing an internal monologue, basically. And so the editor was like, we need to add some like stuff. There were apparently multiple chapters like that where it was like, I need a Hrathen chapter happening on this same day. I don't have any action for him to be doing, so he's going to be thinking about stuff and planning stuff. And the editor was like, okay, we need something here. There has to be some stuff. And so part of what he thought about to himself turns into the conversation with Tellery that he has in the second half of the chapter. And so you take some of his internal musings and port it over there, and you add the thing with Tellery to make his storyline have a little more pop to it. Because apparently, originally, Tellery was not even as big a character as he has been so far in this book. And maybe I'll let you guys read it when we get to the end, because I think it will be in the books that you have. But there's like deleted scenes from a different character that was going to be like a secondary antagonist that eventually got cut. Hrathen had like a brother or half brother or something who was completely insane, like Caligula levels of insane.
Oh, good.
And he was going to be like, he was going to show up and be this guy Hrathen was plotting with. But he was the kind of guy that, like, you know, Hrathen meets with him once and like they make a deal. And then the next time Hrathen comes back, this guy's just decided that, no, the deal is something completely different than what they previously agreed on. And
weird.
Also, you know, I randomly execute all these people, or just like the weirdest, like insane stuff. And so that guy's character got cut entirely.
I am
So
altering
he
the
took
deal.
that-
Pray I do not alter it any further.
Exactly.
Yeah, he took that guy and he's like, I guess Ellen can have a crazy brother. Zane, here we go.
That's true. I guess maybe that is like Ellen does end up with a crazy half brothers. Maybe he ported that idea over.
Refitted for sequel.
Yeah. But anyway, so Hrathen's walking around at night, and like Joe said, it seems that he comes out and like just climbs up and stares at Elantris. He's up here like, dream on, Elantris.
Yes, sleep, Elantris, sleep. Soon you will be mine. I want you lock, stock, and barrel. Is this some sort of gay thing? No. Are you sure? Yes.
We've done that quote so many times on the show.
Oh, I mean, it's a great quote.
Also, I feel like Hrathen's looking out over the city, but he's not the one saying all that. He looks down and Dilaf is the one there saying that. And then Hrathen's the one just like, is that a gay thing?
I totally buy that, actually. Yep.
Dilaf's like, sleep, Elantris, soon I will destroy you. And Hrathen's just like, what's wrong with your voice?
When did that happen?
Also, why are you even here?
Yeah, seriously, nobody invited you. Yeah, while he's up here, yes, Elantris, tomorrow the sun will rise and all will be revealed once again. And then a guard's just walking by. He's like, did you say something? And he's like, oh, no, it's fine.
Yeah, I like how he was straight up honest about it too. He's just like, no, I was whispering to myself.
Yeah, he does. He says that. And the guard just nods and keeps going like, okay, that's a normal thing.
Yeah, people whisper to themselves all the time.
You do you, buddy.
All right, peace out, Fjorden.
Yeah, it says
just nuts, I tell you.
He walks up here every night and stares out at Elantris, but tonight there's something else going on. And he thinks about how he's getting everyone to unite behind hating Elantrians. And he feels kind of bad about it, because the Elantrians that he's seen are not devils. They're just like, they're already afflicted with like this terrible disease. And really, they probably deserve pity. But I need somebody to be my devil, so they're going to be the ones.
Yeah. It's like, sorry, you're the scapegoat. I know your life's shitty already, but oh well.
And he's like, really, this is the most harmless way to do it. If I turn the people against their government, like happened in Duladel, then there's going to be a lot of bloodshed. This way, a few people whose lives suck already, their lives will suck a little more. Most people will not suffer. And he feels bad. It says the destruction that he'd caused in Duladel ground against his soul like a millstone. People who had trusted him were dead.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, this guy's not a terrible dude. It's just like he's doing what he has to do, and unfortunately, like, things didn't go the way they could have, and stuff got out of hand.
Well, and he's just like, but it's better that like this burden is on my conscience than an entire nation continues in heresy. So I saved them, and what it cost is that I have to feel this guilt forever. So it's worth it. Also, all those lives, but whatever. But yeah, so he's planning. He's like, this is the strategy here. Elantrians are scapegoats. Without much effort, I'll be able to overturn this monarchy because it already sucks. And the people are so oppressed that I'll be able to do this quickly. Before they even find out about the king's fall, everything will be done. No messy revolutions, nothing like that. And he's walking along. It says the wall walk was kept clean by the guards, but if you strayed too far, then you get the dark, oily grime that he was not certain what caused it. I don't think that we've gotten any indication actually of what causes it, but even the Elantrians don't know. It's just everywhere.
Yeah, nobody knows.
It's not their waste up here on top of the wall. So that theory's out.
Yeah, it's not excrement. It's not, it's not sexual fluid from Dino Erotica. It's,
Whoa.
yeah, exactly. Dak, you're with me now.
The more you
Ugh.
mention that, the more people in Discord are like, Joe's not going to let it die, and neither will we. One of these
Please let
days,
it
we're going to make him read this stuff.
Well, it's a good thing that I don't read the Discord then, isn't it?
People, for God's sake, it's about dinosaurs. Let it die like them.
Oh my gosh. I saw an article the other day about a guy killed by a dinosaur. Like,
What?
this guy was missing, and they found his dead body inside a dinosaur statue. And they were like, it looks like he dropped his phone inside and then crawled in to try to get it and got stuck and died.
Oh.
And then-
God.
One of the comments is like, first person killed by a dinosaur in 64 million years.
Jeez.
This
That's,
planet has gone 64 million years without a death by dinosaur.
That is a way to go, man. Oof.
No.
That's terrifying. Imagine just being trapped.
Yeah, don't climb inside of things. Just let it go.
No.
Let the phone go, man.
Dude,
that
buy a new
nearly-
phone. It's not that
It
big a
nearly
deal.
happened in the first Jurassic Park, like with the T-Rex animatronics. Like one of the guys operating it was in there and it turned on and he nearly got crushed or something. So,
Oof.
he could have had eaten by a robot T-Rex on his gravestone.
I mean, if you're going to go that way, you got to put it on your gravestone, right?
Oh, yeah.
100%.
I mean, I don't
That's
necessarily
chaos theory.
I don't necessarily want a grave, but if I died that way, then I feel like I would want that on my grave. I want to be cremated, and then you put me on the mantle inside like a ghost trap from Ghostbusters.
Yeah, wow. You and me are similar. I also want to be cremated.
When I was younger, I always wanted my remains set on fire and launched into space.
Nice.
But I
Fires
figure I
don't
probably-
burn well in space.
I probably don't have the money for that.
No, probably not. You got to get pretty rich before you get to go to space.
It's like, I'm not even going while I'm alive. Just like load me into a giant catapult or something.
It's like, as far as I know, I'll be in space. It's fine.
I could probably hit lower orbit.
Giant catapult's probably also expensive, though. Let's be fair. You got to build that.
Yeah, true.
But so yes, he's walking along the wall and he comes up on Duke Tellery with like a group of guards all like dressed in cloaks and stuff. And he's like, I guess they want to be like, nondescript so no one knows. Maybe that would have worked better if he hadn't worn like this rich lavender cloak with silver embroidery.
Yeah, I was like, man, this guy's a drama queen for sure.
It's like, oh, geez, look at the bling rates over here.
Yeah.
The bling. That's good.
Yeah, he's just like, I don't know what his butler's name is, like Jeffrey or something like, Jeffrey, prepare my incognito cloak. Wouldn't you rather have the tattered one that looks like a peasant? No, my incognito cloak with the silver embroidery. Sir,
Oh,
you're
good.
going to stand out. Of course I will.
I don't think you realize what incognito means. No, I don't
Yeah.
even know the meaning of the word.
That's what I just said, sir.
I don't
You're
think I've
fired,
heard
Jeffrey.
what you think it means. Oh, Jeffrey was the butler on Fresh Prince.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Or maybe I drew it out of the recess of my mind for this occasion.
Yeah, it's not a name from this country, that's for sure. His name would have to be like Tio Frey or something to be an Erelon name.
Yeah, it's J.Off Farrar.
And so the guards kind of back up to allow them some privacy, and Teller's like, what, you're not going to ask who I want to meet? And Hrathen's like, well, you're obviously having second thoughts about our plan. It's like, oh, so yeah, I mean, that if you realize that, then you're probably having second thoughts too. And he's like, no, just you're wanting to meet in this way shows that you're nervous about stuff.
I put two and two together, asshole. Hurry up.
Yeah. And he's sitting here like, why is this guy suddenly so worried about this? He'd been really eager to get into this bargain before. So something happened at that party. What's going on? And Teller's like, I don't know that I want to work with Fjorden. He's like, why? Well, I heard some stuff at the party tonight, Gjorn. Are you really the one responsible for or were you really the one assigned to Duladel before its collapse? It's like, well, yeah, I was there. He's like, so you're wondering why a nobleman would be uncomfortable by the fact that you were part of this? They slaughtered their entire noble class during that revolution, and my sources say that you had a lot to do with that.
And Hrathen just could have just gone for the easy method here and just gone, and that is exactly why you shouldn't back out of a deal with me.
Yeah. But he takes a more roundabout way. He's like, so yeah, where'd you get these soldiers that you use? And how good are they? And he's like, well, I don't know. I've never really seen them fight. They're good enough, I guess. He's like, yeah, that's because they never have fought. No soldiers in Erelon have ever fought. So, I want you to think about all the soldiers. If all the soldiers in Erelon were in one place, you might have like 1,500 soldiers. Do you know how many soldiers Viking Pope could put together, like on short notice?
I like how you said Viking Pope.
Hey, Dak calls him Viking Pope. I went for it. He's the regent of all creation. And Teller's like, no, he doesn't have an army. Fjorden only has a basic defense force. He's like, no. I'm not talking about Viking Pope, like King of Fjorden or whatever. I'm talking about Viking Pope, leader of Shu-Dereth, the religion followed by like every other country on the continent. How many soldiers do you think there are in all of those other countries put together who've sworn themselves to Shu-Dereth and to Viking Pope, to Wern, whatever? And Teller's like, oh, now he gets it. Now what Iadon also does, the whole noble class here doesn't seem to understand just how dangerous the Derethi are. Iadon said the same thing. It's like, your country hasn't been important for years. It's like, you're not smart. And in the back of his mind, Hrathen's like, really? I mean, he wouldn't even need an army. Few outside of the priesthood understand like the other more powerful force that he has, the monasteries. For centuries, the Derethi priesthood had been training its monks in war, assassination, and other arts.
That's the book I want to read right now. After he said this bit, I was like, why are we here? Why are we not following a monk in an assassin monastery? That would be way cooler.
That is a cool story, yeah.
So basically Liu Kang and Kung Lao.
Maybe? I mean, they're not assassins, really.
I guess.
I imagine that the training of assassin monks is not as nice as... Mortal Kombat training's not nice either, I guess.
No. Lord Raiden's like, let me shoot some lightning bolts up your ass. That's your training.
And then you don't get any egg rolls.
Pass me the egg rolls.
Pass me a fucking egg roll.
So apparently...
He was good, but that movie was atrocious.
It was a ridiculous movie. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There's some fun stuff.
Dumb but fun.
Yeah.
Like,
well, yeah, that's yeah.
Kano saved it.
Kano really, yeah. He helps every scene.
I
don't
like
think I can
the
quite
deep
articulate.
Oh, I was just gonna say I like the deep cut characters too. Like, they weren't just going for the big names. And Reptile was pretty awesome, but other than that,
yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can really articulate just how relieving it is to see like a major Aussie character played by a blatantly Aussie actor. And allowed to throw in as many Aussie mannerisms as possible. Like the bit after he wins his first fight and just goes, "You fucking beauty." I'm like, oh yes, finally some real Australianisms.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
See, I'm not as familiar with all these Australianisms, so I didn't get. I don't get the
totally
same.
Fair. It's a disparate thing.
Now I'm curious. I'm gonna find some more Aussie things. I saw a commercial today for her. And it's not Aussie. It's like probably New Zealand. But what's her name? Xena is starring in some new TV show as like an ex-police officer who becomes a private investigator. And all the characters, I was like she seems to have her natural accent in the show, and so do all the other characters. So I was like, does this show take place in New Zealand or like what is going on here? Now, actually, I'm gonna look for this to see if I can.
I do love Lucy Lawless. Deep cutters of the show. Remember, I've mentioned her many times.
Oh, apparently this started in 2019, so I guess it's been on for a while. It's called My Life is Murder, or My Life is Murders. We started watching the new show on Hulu called like Only Murders in the Building. It's kind of interesting. I'm not a huge Steve Martin or Martin Short fan, but they're not bad. Okay, let me see. I just want to find out where this TV show is set, because it really seemed like it must be set...
I Want the Chipper Chicken. It's a great movie. Can't believe you're not a Steve Martin fan.
I'm really not. The first season is set in Australia, and then they go to New Zealand for the second season.
Okay.
Interesting.
There you go.
So yeah, I might have to check out that show too now. Just because that's not something you see a whole lot of. I've never seen a show set in New Zealand, I don't think.
I mean, Middle Earth is New Zealand. Let's be real.
Look up Taika Waititi's other films. Like Hunt for the Wilder People is an excellent movie. It's very funny, and that's just like set in rural New Zealand.
Oh yeah, I tried to convince my wife to watch that, and we watched the trailer for it, and she was just kind of like, eh. And I also have been wanting to watch what's the vampire? What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one, but everyone I know who has says it's great, and apparently a TV show based on it is also great.
That's what I've been hearing. And once again, she was just like, I don't know that I want to watch that. So I got to find a time that like I'm on my own to watch some of these things that she's not interested in.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to. I never watched all the way through Venture Brothers, but since I know there's not going to be any more, I've been doing that. But my wife doesn't like it, so I have to find time to watch it by myself.
Yeah, my wife hates that show.
Oh, really? She doesn't like it either? Bummer.
She never even seen like a whole episode, just bits and pieces of me watching it, and she's just like, ugh.
What's wrong with the Venture Brothers? They're amazing.
They're doing a direct-to-video film for it, though.
Oh, good. Maybe that'll wrap us up a little bit.
Mm.
Or maybe it'll revitalize it like it did Futurama. And then when it comes back, it won't be terrible like Futurama was.
Apparently there was it got canceled because of some political stuff within.
Oh, wow.
Because
Network.
Well, yeah, because HBO, like, there's a whole thing with, like, HBO taking over, and
yeah, I see all the Cartoon Network stuff's on there now.
Yeah.
Well, they're definitely, because that's where I'm watching it, so HBO definitely is pimping it out.
Well, yeah, they just added it recently, like a couple of weeks ago, and they made a big thing about it at the time.
I had to watch it on Hulu before because it wasn't on HBO Max, but then they added it.
Okay, sorry. Let's see. Yeah, basically it wasn't like an Adult Swim decision or a Doc and Jackson decision. It was like above them, and so Adult Swim was stating right after the cancellation was announced, like, yeah, we would really love to do more Venture Brothers. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, got way off track with those. We get an interesting little note that just thinking about the monks trained inside the Decor Monastery gaining access to defenseless Erelon. And Hrathen looks down at his arm, where beneath the plate, he bears the marks of his time there. So it sounds like he spent some time in one of the monasteries, and it left some permanent marks on him. Doesn't sound fun. And so he's telling Telri, like, look, I'm here because Viking Pope is giving you guys a last chance to voluntarily convert so that he doesn't have to crush you completely. And the first step to conversion is making sure the government is favorable to our cause. And that's gonna require a change in leadership. So ... And Telri's like, so I have your word? And Hrathen's like, yes, okay, you will have the throne, all right? And Telri's like, there's gonna be people who oppose you, such as Sarene. Her supposed idiocy is obviously an act. He's like, yeah, don't worry about the girl. Just take the money we've provided and wait. Your opportunity will come soon. You heard of the news the king received tonight? Things are moving along as promised. Now we just have to be patient. So whatever news the king got, it sounds like it's part of their deal, whatever has been promised here. And then as Telri's about to leave, he's like, hey, so do your soldiers, they still have friends in the city guard? Maybe you should double your men's pay and speak well of the city guard to them and give them time off to spend with their old buddies. It might be beneficial to your future to have it known amongst the Elantrian guards that you're a guy who rewards allegiance. So he's like, if this is the main body of soldiers in town, maybe you want them to like you and think that working for you would be a good thing. And Telri's like, okay, but you're going to provide the extra funds to double my men's pay, right? And Hrathen's like, oh, jeez, this fucking guy. Yeah, fine.
He's like, I like to spend money, but I don't like to spend my own money.
No, obviously not.
Nobody makes me bleed my own blood.
I totally was watching that movie with the older kids the other day. They'd never seen it. And we got to that scene, and it's just amazing.
Brilliant.
Oh, man. And then we go back to Hrathen's kind of internal monologue where he's like, it disturbs him that Telri had mentioned Sarene. For some reason, she seems to have decided to oppose me for no overt reason. And really, she doesn't understand that I'm her greatest ally. Because her people are going to convert one way or the other, and I'm the nice way.
He's like, and this is the point where we're just like, what?
But yeah, I just like his thing. It's like, why does she want to oppose me so badly? Doesn't she understand that I'm the good guy here? It's like, there's a carrot and a stick, and I am the carrot, clearly. And he's like, I'm not going to be able to convince her. She's going to assume anything I say is a lie. But And then he thinks about how like Shu Korath is just really on its way out. It's so weak. It lacks the virility and power of Shu Dereth. And that's when, as he's walking away or down the steps, he hears the doors close. He's like, what was that? And the guard's like, I don't know. I guess they must have been trying to escape and somebody caught them. And he's like, does that happen a lot? And the guard's like, oh no, most of them are too mindless to try to escape. Every once in a while, one tries to scurry away, but we catch him. And he meets up with the captain, who is now Zapp Brannigan in my mind. He's like, oh, it's you, Gjorn. Oh, no trouble.
I bravely captured the fleeing ones when they came up to surrender to us.
Yes, I'm the best, right, man? You suck.
You suck. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
But Hrathen's like, so, next time you find one trying to escape, and he starts pulling out some gold warnings, as they're called. So Wern named the coins after himself. Sure. Even the Lord Ruler didn't do that. Like, come on, dude. Of course, what would you call them? Like Lord Ruler, right? I can't even think of a good word. Lord Rulerings. That wouldn't make any sense.
No one knew his name, so.
That's true.
Yeah, exactly. He couldn't very well call them Rashians. Yeah, or Rashies.
Shekels. He called them Shekels, and it's just like a very oblique reference to his name. But yes, he's like, so, the next time one of these guys escapes, maybe you bring him by my church. I've been wanting to study one for, theological reasons. I can make it worth your while. And the captain's like, I think we can probably arrange that.
Fair
That's
enough.
the end of the chapter.
Kif, go find me an Elantrian.
So yeah, two more chapters down. What are we now? We are 34% of the way through the book. What do we have as far as predicaments? I don't know that anything like ground shattering happened in this one to change what anyone was already predicting, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, so I think like I kind of mentioned before, the religions, I think those are going to be pretty important, where they came from, what they are for sure. I really think that's going to have some kind of part to play, maybe in the ultimate end of this book. For Sarene, I think the fencing thing's gonna go well, and kind of she's gonna have a lot of women behind her. I don't see that blowing up in her face, but maybe I'm wrong. But I think it's gonna be a positive thing for sure. And so that'll be fun to see. I don't know what's gonna happen between her and the Gjorn. I'm not sure what direction that's heading in, because you almost, like I said, the Gjorn is just very intriguing. You want to see what his plan is and how it's actually going to come to fruition, even though it's probably not a good thing. So it's like, it's very just like, well, I don't want Sarene to stop him. I kind of want to see what's going to happen. But yeah, I think that's kind of where we're headed on that. And then the Gjorn, like I said, his plans are still kind of in the shadows for right now, but obviously he's made a kind of a deal with Telri here, so we'll see how that plays out. And then I know we didn't talk about Hrathen this chapter, but my prediction still kind of stands for that. I think the magic's gonna end up being important as well. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, given Brandon's thing is kind of magic, that you got to figure it's going to come in. Maybe given what we saw in Mistborn, maybe multiple magic systems will pop up somehow. But yeah, it's got to be relevant, right? It can't just not be.
Yeah, it'd be quite a setup if it it's just talked about and hinted at, and then never comes to fruition. That'd be quite a surprise.
Hrathen spends the entire book drawing symbols in the air and nothing ever happens.
Just at the end, he's like, okay, fine, I give up.
Great. Fun with all this magic graffiti that does nothing. No, I don't really have a lot for this one. I do feel like we're slowly building up to Hrathen and Sarene are probably going to come into contact, because I don't know who's going to get to Hrathen first, but I feel like, they're going to catch an Elantrian and give him to Hrathen. Well, that'll probably be Hrathen. But then Sarene is also, she's getting closer to no one knows where Hrathen is. So she reckons that he's not in the grave, so she's got to come close to finding him somehow. So I think the race is on between which of them is going to find him first without realizing they found him. So yeah, one of them is going to. I just don't know which one's going to get there first. Don't really have a lot else. I'm looking forward to long-term prediction. I do think Sarene's going to teach the women of the court defense, and then they're going to be like some of the best sword fighters in the book, and they'll be instrumental to fighting off Dilaf's inevitable uprising or whatever the hell's going to go on. But
Sudden inevitable betrayal. Yeah,
basically. But yeah, that's really all I've got.
I do like this idea that the women are going to be the last line of defense when the whole country starts to fall, and it's like, no, we've been trained by Sarene, and they just pop out and start slaughtering.
All of a sudden, like, Hrathen's got his own Dora Milaje.
Ooh, that would be cool, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of that. All of a sudden, they all have to shave their heads though.
Yeah,
I mean, they don't have to. It doesn't have to be identical.
Yeah, I really want I want this monk assassin Fjorden book.
How do you know it's not this book? Maybe that's
That's the direction we're heading in. Serene goes and joins the Fjorden monastery. I don't think that's gonna happen.
Hrathen's gonna get sent to a monastery and trained to be an assassin, just right in the middle of the book for some reason.
Well, I mean, we know that whatever the hell happened to that monastery still scares the hell out of Hrathen. So, like, that's. I feel like that points to, like, something's got to come of that, because this guy doesn't scare easy, but he is terrified of whatever the hell happened there. So that's got to come into play. That's got to be like,
maybe he runs out of time. Yeah, maybe he runs out of time and they send the assassins.
The whole Assassin's Guild just shows up.
It's like, you've run out. It's like, oh, you're sending the armies? No, I'm sending the monk. Oh God.
Can I leave first?
And it's just like this one dude. Like this one monk, and it's like he's going to take down the whole city
directly.
You sent in a monk?
Oh, you should have said that from the first.
That's all you had to say.
I was thinking more like Return of the Jedi. It's like, the monk is coming here. That is correct, Hrathen, and he is most displeased by your apparent lack of progress.
Oh no, that's not okay. Yeah. Sorry, I'm just thinking about like casting the characters in the book as like Star Wars characters now, and it turned into a whole thing in my brain. Yeah, who is Hrathen in Star Wars? Is he Darth Vader?
I'd say he's actually probably Vader. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of fits. I guess then that makes Viking Pope has to be Emperor.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, the part where they were talking about his armor at the party, I was like, this sounds like Saiyan battle armor. He's got shoulder pads that like go out a foot on each side.
Oh yeah, a foot on each side. Yeah.
I was like, that sounds like Saiyan battle armor with a cape. Basically, he's King Vegeta.
Well, it's plate armor. I think he probably has like stuff on his arms too.
Yeah.
He's Vegeta and Dilaf is his Nappa. It's like,
well, yeah. He's King Vegeta.
Hrathen.
Well, no,
Hrathen.
He's King Vegeta because he's got the cape, but you know, Frieza's Wern or whatever.
That makes sense.
Oh, so maybe Dilaf. If you guys are suspecting that Dilaf is gonna be like the bad guy at some point, so if he's Frieza, does that mean Dilaf is more like Zarbon or?
Sure, or Dodoria. Could be either one.
Or Captain Ginyu.
Captain doesn't really work directly under King Vegeta that way, but.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It could be like, that would be sweet if Dilaf like walked into Elantris and was just like, change now. I don't think that's gonna happen though.
No, I don't think that's. Yeah.
No, that'd be great.
Oh, instead of like a body changing beam, he starts spitting Saiyans at people.
Okay, I'm with it. Are they just normal Saiyans, or does he have like an evil Saiyan?
I don't know. I was just trying to picture what's a golden thing that can come flying out of his mouth. Oh, Saiyans.
Yeah. Well, or he could plant them in the ground like Cybermen. Cultivars, as they're called.
I call that one Hrathen Jr.
Oh my gosh.
Hrathen Jr. No.
Oh my gosh. But then I guess you need a cell to show up later. That's like second book though.
Yeah. He starts absorbing people.
Is there a sequel book to Elantris, or is it standalone?
No, there is not a sequel book. It is standalone for now. He said that at some point later he might like come back and write another book or two, but it wouldn't be like a direct continuation of the story. Originally, when he released this book, I think he said that it would be, and he's changed his mind since then and said different things. But when he originally released this book, I think he said he was thinking about doing a sequel, and it would be like 10 years later. And Keen's kids, like the two not twins, would be like the main characters of that book.
So guess they're gonna survive.
Well, but yeah, like I said, he's changed things since then.
Okay.
No, all the children get slaughtered horribly. It's a thing
Yeah, I
that
was
he
gonna
does all the
say,
time.
Dak, is that what you wanted? Like the kids die?
No, but I was like, I'm not. It's just a case of I don't want to rule anything out.
Yeah, it's fair. But yeah, so he may do more on this one. It just will not be the same focus characters, basically. He's also said, like, I remember when he talked about that in whatever interview that was, like 10 years ago, whatever. It was like, I can't just have two characters though, because then it wouldn't be like chapter triad. So if I want to keep doing the chapter triads, we'd have to have a third like main character. So who knows? Who knows what crazy stuff could happen? I kind of just assumed he wouldn't do chapter triads again, but maybe, that's the way things are in Elantris.
Well, I mean, if it's the sequel, maybe you need to add one more and have chapter quads or.
Yeah, it's true. But if you establish that, then the further you move, the harder it gets. You're like, I have to have 5 characters now, and they all have to be. They each have to have something happen at the same time. It would be getting complicated.
Then he
He made his
becomes
bed.
George R. R. Martin.
He made his bed. Oh gosh. Okay, we have one new review, so let me hit that. No new emails this week. This review from the United States says, amazing. I've been reading Sanderson for years, but when I started a job with a lot of free time to listen to things, trucking in parentheses, I determined that just audiobooks wasn't going to cut it. Somebody on Reddit on the Dresden Files subreddit mentioned you guys, and I decided to give you a try. Glad I did. It's been a fun few weeks, and I plan on listening along with the audiobook once I get to Elantris. Keep up the good work. And that is from Raygor13.
Oh, Raygor. What a sweet review, man. That review was precise. A lot of precision there. A lot of time on your hands as a truck driver. You, sir, since we don't have anything Elantris related as of yet, you are a coin shot. Welcome to the Mist and Crew, sir.
Nice. Coin shot. I like it. That might have been me in the Dresden Files subreddit, for all I know.
Look, I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Who knows? I don't know who else to be recommending us in the Dresden Files subreddit, but if someone is, thanks. I don't remember specifically. Yeah. We have talked repeatedly on that, to the point that some of the people in the Discord are like, you know what, I'm going to start reading the Dresden Files, and then I get to talk to them about that on the Discord. So,
I mean, I should also point out that it's largely due to data that I started reading them years and years ago. So
it's true. I was trying to convince everybody for the longest time, like, you should read the Dresden Files. Like all of our friends, I'm like, hey, everybody should do this. To the point that when I went to see Poet in Denver, I brought like a flash drive with the first 3 books on audiobook. Like, here, now you have no excuse. You can listen to these books, which he didn't do.
Well, now he's read some of them. I remember
he's read some of them now.
I know he's definitely talked about he really loved Summer Night, but I don't know how far he actually got.
I think it was after Billy decided to read them that Poet was like, okay, maybe I'll give them a try.
Okay.
Summer Night's one of my faves too. I also really like Death Masks and
Death Mask is great, yeah.
Deadbeat. Proven Guilty, I'm not a big fan of. I like Blood Rights.
Oh, Blood Rights. That's the one that a lot of people have some issues with also.
Really? I think
the depiction of women in the book that's about a porn video shooting.
Yeah, well. What can you do?
But it's got a great thing with a frozen turkey and stuff, so,
Sure.
Yeah.
Anyway. Thank you for the review. If anyone else wants to get jumped into the Mist and Crew, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. You may have to send me an email and point out your review if you leave it elsewhere, because the tracker that I use doesn't track everything everywhere. But, I will gladly accept reviews wherever you want to leave them.
And I want to do a quick plug and also a thank you to any listeners that have been going to my YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, if you're unfamiliar with it, I've changed the name. It's now called A4 Reads. So that's A and then space FOUR space Reads. I've been seeing a lot of traffic on my channel, and it's I've like grown in subscribers quite a bit recently, and so I would assume some of that is due to the listeners of this show, and so I want to say thank you for your support. If you guys have, I know I'm right in the middle of a book right now, but if you have ideas for other books you would like me to read, as long as I can do it, I've kind of looked up fair use stuff, and as long as it's for like educational type purposes, I don't think that it's a big issue. So as long as I do a disclaimer at the beginning, I'll keep going as long as I won't be stopped. But yeah, thanks to anyone who's been supporting that. It's pretty cool.
What are you reading right now?
I'm still reading Midnight Sun.
Which you were just talking about it to the audience, and I was like, maybe they don't remember what you're reading. So.
Oh yeah, my bad. Yeah, Midnight Sun is still what I'm reading. I haven't moved on from that book because I wasn't sure how much people were getting out of it. But then when I've seen the increased traffic, I've increased the amount of things that I've been releasing. I'm doing it a chapter at a time. So because that takes each chapter takes about an hour to read aloud. So.
I like when I search on YouTube for A4 reads. Yours was not like the first thing that came up. It's like Miss Rogers reads Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. Okay.
Yeah, not surprising.
For a second, I thought that you had switched to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, and then I saw the Miss Rogers thing and was like, oh, okay, no, that's somebody else. Good to know.
Yeah, Goblet of Fire. Good book.
Good book, yes. Agreed. If you would like to send us emails, the email address is thesanderlanche@gmail.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and Instagram. I'm going to work on uploading the third Mistborn book to YouTube in the near future. That is my plan. So if you're a YouTube person, you will be able to listen to stuff that we did months and months ago when I get it up on YouTube. But yeah. So for next time, we are reading 2 more chapters. So that will be 16 and 17. And they're both kind of lengthy chapters this time. The second one is still the longer of the two, but they're both a good length. So lots of meaty things going on with the next 2 chapters. So
meat.
Read those for next time and come back. We will discuss them. Music by Miracle of Sound and Wasing to the Time of Next, everyone. Colo?
My name's Iadon. Get up, get out of the city